strike, you fucking go get a job. Yeah. Go get a job. Loser, fucking loser.
You just watched a slur-spewing MAGA heckler get his ass beat by gravity at the No Kings protest in Denver, Colorado. Or, as the man in the video put it, he fucked around and he found out. Indeed. And what's funny is that after he was hurling slurs at them, once he ate shit, they spewed the same slurs back at him, which was so funny to me. And I don't even know if MAGA supporters have the capacity to feel shame. But I mean, if a crowd of people laughing at you after you faceplant doesn't do it, then nothing will. But in case you missed it, he was antagonizing protesters, yelling, "Let's go ICE," and a young man snatched his glasses off of his head and ran with them, which then led to the maggot chasing after him. And that was presumably the first time that he's done any cardiovascular activity in decades. But predictably, it didn't end well for him, and I want to show you what happens after he faceplanted, because he then storms into a group of protesters, tries to fight them until somebody half his age intervenes and de-escalates the situation.
Hey, get your buddy. Get your buddy.
Back up, man. You ran into me. What the fuck?
Hey, don't touch me. Don't touch me.
Trip his ass. Trip his ass. Fuck you. Fuck tall person. Get the fuck out of here. Get out of here. You, dude. What are you doing? Get out of here. They're violent right now. Get out of here. I don't know where they are. Get out of here. Get out of here. I'm sorry, but you need to go. I don't want you to get hurt more than you are. I don't know where they are.
So if the guy in the Bernie shirt didn't intervene, then he probably would have gotten into an actual fight and got his ass beat by more than just gravity. And I just want to point out that it shouldn't be this way, where somebody half his age has to step in and show more restraint and emotional maturity than him. But I mean, that's to be expected of MAGA, since this is a cult consisting exclusively of emotionally stunted adults. But listen, he wasn't the only one to get humiliated over the weekend at the No Kings protests, because 59-year-old Mary Moriarty was arrested after waving a gun at No Kings protesters at Myrtle Beach on Saturday. But unfortunately for her, she also fucked around and found out, and she got humbled as well in front of a very large crowd of people, and it was glorious to watch. So as you can see, so many Trump supporters have no impulse control whatsoever. They also don't have any filters, probably because they don't have internal monologues. So the second they see something that triggers them, they start shitting their pants and foaming at the mouth, and they just can't contain themselves. And that's not surprising, because we're dealing with people who, even though they're in the bodies of adults, their brains clearly never matured past adolescence. And it's sad, but I mean, this is what we have to expect. And from personal experience, I actually attended a No Kings protest in a more rural part of Oregon, so my mom could make it out too. And there was a guy in a truck with a Trump flag that was just going back and forth, driving by the protesters, rolling coal. And I didn't see this particular part, but the local organizers had to step in to de-escalate, because a Trump supporter was apparently trying to throw deer urine on the protesters because of how triggered they were. Nonetheless, I will say that the overall response to the protest, at least the one that I went to, was overwhelmingly positive. And there was maybe like 5 seconds the entire 2-hour duration where there wasn't people honking their horns, because so many people were ecstatic to see the turnout. It was really encouraging for myself to see that. And that's what I want the takeaway to be, because even though I'm talking about these incidents of dipshittery from MAGA, when you have around 2,700 events across the country with more than 7 million attendees in total, to have there be just a couple of viral incidents where Trump supporters acted a fool, that's actually pretty encouraging. You can find videos online of MAGA influencers interviewing attendees, trying to make them look dumb or ignorant, but overall, I'd say that the protest was a huge success. That being said, it's not going to lead to any sort of political reforms or profound social change, but it's the start of what could be something that's much bigger, which we'll talk about in a bit. But even though Republicans are downplaying the No Kings protests, they're very clearly triggered by it based on how they're defensively talking about the protests. For example, here's what President Neck Pussy said when he was asked about the protests.
I think it's a joke. I looked at the people. They're not representative of this country. And I looked at all the brand new signs paid for, I guess it was paid for by Soros and other radical left lunatics. It looks like it was. We're checking it out. The demonstrations were very small, very ineffective, and the people were whacked out. When you look at those people, those are not representative of the people of our country.
Mr. President, besides San Francisco...
By the way, I'm not a king. I'm not a king. I work my ass off to make our country great. That's all it is. I'm not a king at all.
I may actually have to start censoring his neck before YouTube accuses me of putting nudity in the videos, because goddamn, the neck pussy is getting more and more prevalent, and it's not a sight that I want to look at. Nonetheless, putting aside his nussy, if he is working his ass off like he says he is, then it's not to the benefit of the American people. It's to the benefit of himself and his family, who's using the presidency to rack up billions of dollars in their own personal wealth. But I mean, if the protests aren't representative of the country like he says, okay, then match it. Host your own right-wing equivalent, the Pro-Kings rally, where Trump supporters peacefully protest to support you and Project 2025, and let's see how many people turn out to that. I bet you couldn't get a fraction of the people to show up to that. And he knows this, which is why he's seething. But he also engaged in the typical right-wing cope that we've been seeing in response to every protest. Oh, it's not real. It's just AstroTurf paid for by George Soros. And they all believe this. And when I say all, every single MAGA supporter. Like, my own family accused me of getting paid by George Soros to do this show. They probably think that I'm paid by George Soros because I went to the protest. But guess what? Let's do something about it. I don't like billionaires. Let's ban super PACs from existing at all. Let's prohibit billionaire influence in politics. And better yet, let's tax billionaires out of existence. Let's make it so every penny that they make after $999 million gets taxed at 100%. Look, I'm a nice guy, so I'm willing to sweeten the deal. Let's have the government send them a certificate congratulating them for winning capitalism after that 100% tax kicks in. If they don't agree to this and they refuse to sell off their assets until their overall net worth is less than $1 billion, then they get to go to prison. Like, that's actually how you would never have to worry about something like this again. Like, you'd never have to question whether or not George Soros is influencing politics. But you see, they don't want to do that because they're totally fine with billionaire influence in politics so long as it's billionaires that they like. So Republicans, they have to shut the fuck up about billionaire influence in politics. One, because they're capitalists, and two, because they're completely hypocritical. Elon Musk is literally bribing people to vote in special elections. And on top of that, Trump was bragging about how donors like Miriam Adelson effectively bought his position on Israel, like influenced him to implement pro-Israel policies that he actually implemented, like letting Israel annex the Golan Heights. But I mean, they have no self-awareness whatsoever, so of course the irony is lost on them. But getting back to the No Kings protest, it's honestly amazing how triggered he was by that, as evidenced by the fact that Trump shared this AI-generated video of him wearing a crown in a fighter jet, as if he'd be able to fit in a fighter jet, dropping literal shit on No Kings protesters, including liberal influencer Harry Sisson. And as immature as it is for an 80-year-old grandfather to share something like this, I actually do think that it is an astute metaphor, seeing as how he is shitting on the entire country right now and the Constitution and the American people. But again, I expect the irony to be totally lost on him. But it's funny because if Biden or Obama were to post something like this, we all know that they would throw hissy fits for weeks. Just last year, they were putting garbage bags on themselves after Biden apparently called them garbage in response to a beta male comedian at one of Trump's rallies referring to Puerto Rico as a pile of garbage. Do you remember that? I remember that shit. Mike Johnson even clutched his pearls about it on Twitter, writing, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's disdain for half of America was exposed when Biden said Trump supporters are garbage. Fast forward to today, and Mike Johnson is commending Trump for exposing his disdain for the other half of the country.
Say that the President of the United States over the weekend released a video of him pooping on the American people.
The president uses social media to make a point. You can argue he's probably the most effective person who's ever used social media for that. He is using satire to make a point. He is not calling for the murder of his political opponents, and that's what these people are doing.
In other words, it's terrible when Democrats overgeneralize about Republican voters, but when Trump does the same about the Democratic Party's voters, it's just good satire, liberal. Stop being so emotional and getting triggered by everything, you snowflake. And it's been a while, but when that happened last year with the whole garbage thing, Biden came out and clarified that he wasn't calling Trump supporters garbage. Rather, he was referring to the comedian as a Trump supporter, and the transcript didn't have an apostrophe, so it looked like he was referring to Trump supporters in general, so it was misconstrued and blah, blah, blah. But really, at this point, Democrats should just give them a taste of their own medicine and own it. Just straight up say, yeah, Trump supporters are garbage. Fuck them. Cry about it, bitch. Like, MAGA is destroying the fucking country. They are a modern-day Nazi movement, and if you voted for an authoritarian fascist running on mass deportation, I'm sorry, I think that garbage or deplorable is actually too fucking polite for these bastards. But again, you can't say that about them. You've got to coddle them. But they can say whatever they want about us and shit on us and call us extremists and terrorists, and we just have to take it. That's good satire. But I do love the talking point that Mike Johnson came up with to poo-poo the idea that Trump wants to be a king, because he's ironically using the shutdown as evidence that Trump couldn't possibly be a king. Listen.
The spectacle is what the mobs, the crowds, the rallies this week were all about. It was quite ironic, though. The irony was very glaring. They called it the No Kings Rally. But the great irony, of course, that we pointed out over and over was if President Trump was a king, the government would be open.
Actually, the real irony is that Donald Trump is benefiting from the shutdown, because once Congress reconvenes, Mike Johnson would then have to swear in Adelita Grijalva, who'd be the 218th vote for Ro Khanna and Thomas Massey's discharge petition that would force a vote on the release of the Epstein files. And Republicans do not want to vote for that because they don't want to show their cards, because they want to protect pedophiles. So Republicans like Mike Johnson, who control Congress, they chose to shut down the government to protect pedophiles, and now they're saying, oh no, it was Democrats who shut down the government, even though they benefit from the government shutdown so they can hide the crimes that Trump may have committed with Jeffrey Epstein. See, that is why the government is shut down, but now he's trying to say, no, it's evidence that Trump couldn't possibly be a king. But I mean, I've got to say, on top of that, the way that they're talking about these protests as if they are Hate America rallies is really rich. Mike Johnson even referred to it as a mob. And it's so embarrassing because these absolutely were not Hate America rallies. Quite the contrary. There were American flags everywhere at the protests that I went to, and a lot of people who were there felt like they had a patriotic duty to get out and protest because they were so outraged at the way that Donald Trump has killed our democracy. I also saw a lot of veterans holding signs. There were signs about the Constitution and banners about unity and how they're not the enemy to Republicans. They all want to come together. And in an article for Common Dreams, Robert Freeman shares some of the signs that he saw at his rally, and they were similar to the ones that I saw. ISIS trumps Gestapo. When cruelty becomes normal, compassion becomes radical. If you love America, this is how you show it. No dictators. I saw this one too. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious line Nazi POTUS. No faux king way we're going to take this. It's bad enough that even introverts are here. The reason you should care is not that it could happen to you, but that it's already happening to others. Hate never made a country great. So many concerns, so little cardboard. If I had a nickel for every time Trump lied, I wouldn't need Social Security. No kings, no felons, no pedophiles. When tyranny becomes law, rebellion rebellion becomes duty, no troops in our cities, only you can prevent fascist liars, so on and so forth. I mean, nothing too overly offensive. I think that the most edgy sign that I saw at the one that I went to was vote for a rapist, expect to get fucked, which was amazing. And it was an older person who was carrying that sign, so it was very cool to see that. You know, there were also a lot of frogs on signs and t-shirts, and it's just hilarious because Republicans are trying to frame what is obviously an overtly liberal, frankly milquetoast protest as some radical event with a bunch of terrorist sympathizers, when it was so tame that a lot of leftists were criticizing it for not being radical enough. And on that note, I do want to talk about that because I don't begrudge lefties and young people for feeling really cynical about the No Kings protest because they weren't making any specific demands. There was also a lot of civility policies being made by the national organizers, not to mention an RSVP list, which is not something that we need in this age when they're tracking the movement of protesters. And also, you know, when you grow up and you're a young person and you see that Occupy Wall Street, Black Lives Matter made no political difference, it's easy to get bogged down and blackpilled about politics. So I do understand why so many people didn't bother, but I will say that No Kings to me really felt like more of an entry point for a lot of people, which is important, right? And if you're a leftist, this is a fantastic way to meet people in your community and introduce them to more radical forms of politics eventually. Befriend them at first, but I mean, this is how you get to know people. You can eventually talk to them about anti-capitalism, anti-imperialism, workplace democracy, and such. And I think that people want to have these conversations right now because they're trying to understand why the system failed them so thoroughly. And this is how you can kind of help guide them in the correct direction, right? Don't be like overly preachy and whatnot. Make friends with them. But I mean, these conversations are ones that they actually want to have. And a lot of people there describe themselves as normies. So this is an opportunity for the left to try to radicalize the normies. I think to me, it's an opportunity to channel their anger into more productive, cohesive left-wing forms of politics, because a lot of the folks that I talked to, just from my own firsthand experience, they felt powerless and pissed off. And they protested for the first time because they just felt like they needed an outlet to vent. So I would encourage young people and leftists to show up to the next No Kings protest and talk to the people in their community, because this is how you grow and sustain mass movements. It's always at the grassroots level, never from the top down. In my mind, this was a test for the ultimate goal, which is a general strike. But in order to pull something like that off, you need workers across the political spectrum to come together in mass mobilization like this. It's something that one of the organizers actually talked to Sam Cedar about on the Majority Report. And it's even something that Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson referenced during his speech at the No Kings rally in Chicago.
If my ancestors as slaves can lead the greatest general strike in the history of this country, taking it to the ultra-rich and big corporations, we can do the same today. I'm calling on black people, white people, brown people, Asian people, immigrants, gay people from around this country to stand up against tyranny and to send a clear message to the ultra-rich and big corporations. We are going to make them pay their fair share in taxes to fund our schools, to fund jobs, to fund healthcare, to fund transportation. Democracy will live on because of this generation. Are you ready to take it to the courts and to the streets?
Basically are, right? When we're seeing just the depth of the attacks that are happening, trying to roll back all those gains that were won through past struggle, you know, that you were talking about. And they're not going to win. They're not going to do it. This crowd out here is showing why they're not going to do it.
It's our money. It's supposed to go to us. And so when we go on a general strike, we're basically saying we want our money to go back to us. We want our power to go back to us, not to these fascists.
And that right there is why I'm hopeful about the No Kings protests and feel like it really has potential, because the fact that they're talking about a general strike is encouraging, because that is actually how you get real change in this country. Because even though oligarchs and fascists have completely taken over the country, we can bring the entire fucking system to its knees in a matter of weeks, literally simply by doing one thing: withholding our labor. And that works because there are more of us than there are of them. It's a basic lesson that I learned from A Bug's Life when I was a kid, but they know this too. And if you really want to scare the shit out of the ruling class, a general strike is exactly how you do that. That's how you get things done. So my hope is that No Kings will be a gateway to something bigger like a general strike. And by showing up to these protests and talking to people who are getting involved in politics for the first time, you make it all the more likely that a general strike could take place in the near future. First, you have to meet people and raise the public's consciousness about the utility and value of a general strike. Now, this is something that cannot be pulled off without unions, but if union leaders see that millions of people are willing to take action to make specific demands of the regime, labor leaders can use that to build momentum towards a general strike. So, I mean, in the end, Republicans talking about the radical nature of the No Kings protest is super funny to me because it might actually become a self-fulfilling prophecy if they keep pissing off the people they're talking about. So please, show up to the next No Kings protest. If there's an event near you, try to make it if you can. There might be some MAGA chuds that try to intimidate you or talk shit, sure. But as the videos we saw at the start of this video taught us, they are their own worst enemies, and as hard as they try, no amount of heckling or propaganda can minimize the voices of millions of Americans who take to the streets to sound off. And if we can get 7 million, maybe we can get 10 million next time. Maybe if we get, 10 million, maybe we can get a general strike. It's only possible if enough people participate. So in my mind, No Kings is just the starting point, not the end goal. And it gives me a lot of hope to see so many Americans voice their opposition to fascism. That in and of itself is really encouraging to me, and it proves that not all hope is lost yet, as bleak as things look.
Mike is a total loser, so don't hit the subscribe button, okay? And whatever you do, folks, do not hit the notification bell either. Mike treats me so unfairly.